I was 8 years old, 1989, when I was rudely awakened and introduced to the effects of failed parenting. I was just 8 years old. And I remember it like yesterday. As a matter of fact, I remember my life from as early as maybe 4 years old. So because of that, sometimes when I'm behaving in front of my son who is 4 years old, I'm careful because I can remember a lot of details. I could remember a lot of details. My name is Martyn Edosomwan, and I was born on Monday, the 2nd of February, 1981. So that will make me 41 years, 3 months, and 4 days today. I am third child amongst 6 siblings from my dad and mom together. I remember many years ago, whenever our stories are, or my story is shared, whenever people hear about us, and they'll say, and you people were 6? Say, yes. And your mom left? I never really understood why they were asking such questions. Like, hey, who wouldn't leave just because you had 6 kids? But as a young lad, I remember vividly my dad laying hands on my mom and how it affected me. I was so close to mom, so every time my dad would beat her, I would get so upset, so mad at him. And then I would be surprised afterwards when they'd settle and they are also having fun. I'd be surprised. As a young child, I really didn't sleep much. I could lie awake at night for over 4 hours while everybody's asleep. So that means I'll hear everything, see everything that's happening, or know about everything that's happening. And I didn't think much about it. I just thought I was different. It wasn't because I was worried, nor afraid, but there would be no sleep. But of course, I had long overcome that. So my life experience in a dysfunctional home began even when I was younger, before this separation. So I already knew something was wrong. And as a lad, I had decided that I wouldn't do that in future to my wife. And to date, I've never done that. Even before I got married, when I had girlfriends, I never did it. I never raised my hands on any woman. And one day, I was scolding my elder brother and reporting him to my mom. And then I made mention of it. And she looked at me with teary eyes. But she didn't know where that was coming from, because it came from me observing my dad do that to her, and I didn't like it. So I said I wouldn't do it. And I didn't even know what decision I was making then. So that's because I began to pick up things from their lifestyle. And then after the separation, my whole world came crumbling down. For years, I would dream of my mom begging her to come back, because she traveled abroad, 1989. It wasn't really a big thing then, but she traveled abroad, and then she remarried. My dad had 6 of us. My immediate younger brother was with my dad's mom in Delta State. And then my dad drove the remaining 5 of us out of the house. Yeah, because we were in support of our mom. Of course, you're a child, you'd support your mom. But when I grew up, I knew better. And I began to counsel my brothers that you don't have to take sides. They both lived their lives, made their mistakes. It's not all daddy's fault. But we can learn from them. As a matter of fact, I had to confront my mom once and say, no, for all these years, you always put the blame on my dad, you and your family. But I had grown up now. I'd learned some things. It's on both of you. Because they would always say to us, your dad drove you guys and abandoned you. But when I grew up and got mature, I realized that. So I told my mom painfully, my dad drove us. That's true. You also abandoned us. And she was so sad. I said, yes, you did. Because you shipped us to your dad. And they didn't raise us properly. But she was like, no, I want to get a better life for you guys. And this and that. I said, if you got a better life for me, I won't be here now. I'll be much more better than this. Guess what? I didn't finish secondary school. Because there was nobody to give me 100 naira to write GSSE. And I had uncles and aunties. I had a mom abroad. I had a dad that was working in an oil company in Delta State. There was nobody to give me 100 naira in 1993 to write SSE. So I remember it to date. So that was why I stopped my secondary school. But I'm a BSc holder. I studied sociology and anthropology in the University of Benin. So I went to school, of course, on my own. I was just reading and studying stuff. So I didn't have the privilege of doing the sciences because I needed maybe a tutor to help me. And perhaps that was not really my line, I don't know. So I was just studying the things I could study and understood. And then eventually I wrote SSE, wrote GCE, and I got to school. I first gained admission to the University of Benin in 1998 to study diploma in law. And then we started in 1999. I didn't finish because I didn't have money to complete it. Then I started working. And around that period, we reconciled with our dad. But his health had failed, and he had lost his job, so he couldn't take care of us. So he was heartbroken. And eventually that led to his death. So, but because I didn't finish secondary school, and I raised my other 3 siblings, because I'm third child among 6 of us. So I taught them to read and write. I made sure they went to secondary school, and all of them went through secondary school. So I decided that when I was growing up, when I was younger, the in thing was for boys and people from where I came and grew up to go abroad, to yearn to go abroad. And I said I didn't want to do that, that I wanted to have my first degree before I would leave this country. But I didn't go to secondary school. So eventually I couldn't finish that diploma, so I started working, and I worked for almost 10 years. I went back to school. I wrote JAM and passed this time. In fact, I wrote JAM for almost 10 years. I wrote JAM, I wrote Poly JAM, I wrote JAM, I wrote Poly JAM over and over again, just so that I said I would get a degree before I leave this country. And then I went back to school. By the time I got to school, I used to tell my friends then that I was already educated. I just came to get paper. Because I began to teach them stuff. And I'll be surprised at the way they behave. I will ask them, so your parents are together? Yes. You went to private schools, and you don't know these things. So I began to mentor them, even from the university. I began to mentor a lot of them, who are still my great friends today. So by the time I graduated, I couldn't go for youth service because I was over the age. So I was given an exemption letter. So I have my exemption letter, so I didn't serve because I graduated from a 4-year course when I was over 30. And I learned from observing my parents and then observing other great parents, especially parents of some of my friends, when I visited them, because God had blessed me so much. I had parents from different places that I would observe and watch them. I said, okay, this I like. This is what I want to be like. This is what I want to do for my kids. This is what I want to behave for my wife. As a young lad, I remember feeling terrible when we'll be waiting for my dad to come home. All of my brothers and sisters are sleeping. We're 5 boys and 1 girl. They would all be asleep. My mom is awake, waiting for my dad to come home. I would be awake. And at that tender age, I said I didn't want to do that to my family. And today, I'm married. I have 2 beautiful kids. And whenever I get home, I see the excitement. My kids jumping about like, wow, Dad is home. So we'll play a game for another 30 minutes, 1 hour before I tuck them in. I never observed my dad do that to me. I don't remember my dad giving me a bath. I remember my mom brushing my teeth. I don't remember my dad doing that. So these things that I picked up, maybe from watching movies, observing other parents, or from watching my dad and mom, and I didn't feel right about what was happening. And then I decided, okay, since this doesn't make me feel right, I also don't want to be this. I don't want to be this for my kids. So sometimes when I'm out with friends or maybe at church and they see me change my daughter's diaper or we are talking, I say, no, I'm coming, I need to give my child a bath. Some of them are surprised. And then some of my friends were like, excuse me, I say, yes, I bathe my children. I do everything apart from breastfeeding. Because God didn't bless me with that. I do everything my wife does, only she does them more. But I do everything. I make their food, I bathe them, I change their clothes, wash their clothes. But my dad never did that to me. So I know that I'm a great improvement on my parents. And I believe that if there's still more time on earth, my kids will be a better and greater improvement on me. Because I have these stories of, like Mr. Kingsley said, born without a parent and parented myself, so to speak. You know, the first time I was awakened to that fact, like I said, after my parents separated, there was nobody to give me toothpaste. Because I grew up knowing that you have to brush your teeth with toothpaste. There was nobody to give me bathing soap. There was nobody to give me body lotion. At 8 years old, for the first time, I went to the market to buy myself body lotion. I bought cocoa butter, 1989. And bought imperial leather. And then close up. For the first time, I did that by myself. Before my elder brothers learned to buy for themselves, I had done that. So I was rudely awakened to the fact that, you know what? People don't stay. So that made me develop a kind of trait that I'm also trying to balance in my life, where I value people, I love people, but if you leave, I don't die. I don't make a fuss about it. I just move on, like you were never there. You know, it can be tough on my wife, because it's actually tough on her. I said, no, it's not that I don't care about you. I had just developed a thick skin about that because of the effects, the adverse effects the separation of my parents had on me. Like I said, I would always dream every night begging my mom to stay, not to go. I remember the first time she returned to Nigeria with her husband then. I was begging her, Mommy, don't go. Mommy, take us. Don't go. Don't go. I think that was the last time I cried for issues, painful issues about life. So my wife would say that, you don't have tears in your eyes. I say, no, I have. Like, I've never seen you cry. I say, I cry. But it's not for things like this. It's the things that bring me to tears when I experience love. When I see how people are loved or how God loves people, every time it brings me to tears. Every time. But my reality was not that. So I decided that I don't want that to be the reality of my kids or of the woman I'd get married to. And to a great extent, I've done some good about that. I've made some changes, and I'm still changing. I'm still learning from people like Mr. Kingsley and some other men that I read about and follow. And God has helped me. So in a nutshell, that's my story. There are lots and lots of stories in my story, but in a nutshell, that's my story. Thank you.